Do you ever wonder why your makeup doesn't look like a makeup artist did it? Even when you're using the exact same products? In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why that is. These are the things that we do differently that completely change the end result. So this is video 2 of Makeup Artist Secrets. In the first video, I shared with you exactly some of the basic things that we do that are very subtle, but they do make a big difference, and just a basic makeup application. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to elevate that look so that if you have a wedding to go to, or a shower, or any special event where you're going to be photographed and you're going to be out maybe in some heat, or it's just going to be a very long day and you just want to look good from early morning until late night. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kathleen and I've been in the beauty industry my entire life. I currently run and manage a team of about 20 artists, and we do on-location hair and makeup in the tri-state area. These are things I do on a daily basis to my clients so that their makeup will last the entire day. I work with a lot of brides, bridesmaids, and mother of the brides. So I create content for mature women who like more of a natural aesthetic that's not overdone and sort of effortless. So if that's you, consider subscribing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link that first video down below. If you're interested, you can sort of look at that, but I just kind of go over the basics. Now that the basics we've kind of gotten through that part, this is what I would do to elevate the look. So a lot of people would go in first and just like maybe put their foundation on. What you really need to do is stand back, look at the skin, and evaluate it. And then, do you have dry skin? Do you have oily skin? Do you have combination skin? And that would determine what type of primer that you would use. Now, primers are really important if you want your makeup to last the entire day. A lot of people make the mistake of just going in there and putting the primer all over their entire face after they've moisturized and maybe used a serum and then they have a sunblock on. You don't need to layer on that much product. What you do need to do is be a little bit more strategic. And I have a combination of problems on my skin. I have rosacea here. I have large pores on my nose and my chin and in my center of my forehead. And then I also have texture up and through here that I'm looking to camouflage. So what I do is I go in and I'll take a tiny bit. When I tell you a tiny bit, you don't need a lot, like that much. And go in and correct the redness first. That to me is my most predominant problem. And I'll just go in and put that where it's needed. I happen to like this one from Smashbox. It's the Photo Finish Correct. And then I would go in and I would focus on my large pores. Again, I don't take a lot, I take a very little. Dab it on my nose, dab it on my chin where I have large pores, and I press that into the skin. Now, I'm not using a lot because we don't want the product to start pilling and we don't want it to start to collect in those areas. We want it to really be in the skin and correct the problem. And then where I had texture, I would go in and I would take a little bit of this Photo Finish Smooth and Blur product from Smashbox, take a little tiny bit and go where I have the texture, right in through here, and press that into the skin, either with my fingers or I would use a brush. So elevating the look doesn't mean I'm going to change the amount of product that I'm going to use. It's just going to change the way I'm going to be using it. I would not do my eyebrows differently. I would do my eyeshadow pretty much the same because I don't want it to get too heavy and dreary looking. The only difference with the eyeshadow, as opposed to going in there with a matte across my lid, I would probably go in there with a shimmer right across my lid. I don't bring it up into the crease, I just put it across the lid. And what that's gonna do is that's just gonna elevate the look a little bit more without making it look too heavy. It's not about putting more makeup on, it's about putting the right amount of makeup on and being a little bit more strategic about it. Then I would take a brown liner and I would go up and I would just try to get right in that lash line and define that lash line a little bit more with a brown liner. Just kind of work that in there. And then to elevate the top, I would go in there with the brown and just do the outer third portion of my lid. And I would just go in here. I would take it from like maybe the pupil and bring it out like so, right across that lash line. Then I would take a pencil brush and go in there and smudge that out. Again, we're looking for it to be very soft. We're not looking for anything too harsh. And I can tell you that's probably one of the #1 things that makeup artists do differently. They spend a lot of time blending the makeup so it doesn't look like you're wearing makeup, right? We just really want you to look beautiful and elevated. We don't want you looking like, oh, your makeup is very dramatic. You can see the difference now between this eye and this eye, how it just kind of smudged that lash line out a little bit, but yet it doesn't look too harsh looking. And don't be afraid to go right into that lash line. Make sure that you're really getting in that lash area there. You don't want to see any gaps in the liner. And next, what I typically do is cut out their brows a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean by that. You take a little bit of concealer, put it on the top of your hand like so, take a flat brush, put a little tiny bit on there, and then go in and get very close to the under part of your brow, like right in here, and bring it up right underneath there. And this is considered cutting that brow out, so it looks more defined and more polished looking. And that will just lift that brow up a little bit more too. So it's really all about blending. What I would do next is take my blending brush, the one that I use with my eyeshadow, in the crease, and just blend that out so it looks seamless. We don't want any hard lines. Just smoothing that up a little bit. Now, on a daily basis, I'm not gonna do this. It's a little too much work for running around and doing errands. But if I had a wedding to go to or a special event, to see, these are things that I would do. These are things I have done, and it lasts the entire day. And now to take it a step further, what I would do is go in there and put just a few very subtle lashes on, just to enhance that lash line a little bit more, so that throughout the day, even if I am tired, I'm not gonna look tired. Okay, if you have a very dry under eye, you don't want that concealer sitting on every fine line and every bit of texture underneath there. So what I would recommend doing right after you've done your primer on your face is go in there with some eye pads like these. So put these on underneath while you're doing your eye makeup. That way it's going to add a lot of moisture to that under eye. I can tell you the last thing you want to do is go in there and put a concealer on, and with your under eye being very dry. And the under eye, really, you can moisturize the heck out of it. It's a very thin skin on the under eye there. So it really will absorb in there very quickly. But it will make all the biggest difference if you have a problem with your concealer just settling into every area. You want it to, you know, absorb into that under eye. That's why mature eyes, we use a lot of serum concealers, because it really absorbs into the skin. You don't want anything too matte or too drying. Okay, next, to elevate the eye, I would take a half lash, okay? One of these half lashes from Ardell. I would go and put a glue, this Ardell Duo glue. It's hypoallergenic, it's very safe to use around the eye. Go in and tap a little bit on the end of it here. And what I'm going to do that's differently, that if you struggle putting on lashes, this is something that you can do, and it's a lot easier to do. Make sure the shorter piece of the lash is facing inward. I would take my fan, if you don't have a fan, just air dry it, and make sure that that's dry. You can wait for up to 30 seconds with the fan, and up to a minute if you don't have a fan. Okay, because you don't want to get the glue all over the makeup. Right? That's probably something that you've tried to do in the past, and you end up struggling trying to get them on. But now they've come out with so many new types of lashes, like these are great. This glue is very safe. You can I'm going to put it on my under part of my lash to show you that, but they also make self-adhesive lashes that you put underneath the lash. I'm going to leave a link to a few of those down below. Valora makes some. There's a couple different companies that make some. So what I'm going to do is go up underneath that lash, and voila, it's on. 1, 2, 3. And you can see that just elevated the corner lash of my eye. You can see it just grabbed right onto that lash. The glue on there just grabbed to the under part of the lash. You're not gonna get the glue in your eye unless you stick it in there and stick it in there accidentally. I just put it right underneath that lash. It adhered to the bottom part of my lash as opposed to the top part of my lash. And because we used a liner, and we went right into that lash line, now the lashes will look like they belong right there. They don't look fake. They don't look like, oh, they're way too big for my eye. They actually fit my eye pretty good. And when you do everything, just stand back and look. Don't look at everything up close. Nobody's gonna be talking to you like that, or you're not gonna be photographed that way. Just kind of look straight ahead and see, does it look like a lot? Does it not look like enough? And then you kind of judge by that. That's what I'm doing when I'm working with a client. What does it need, or what doesn't it need? And then go in there. What needs to be corrected? What needs to be softened up? What needs to be adjusted? And then we just kind of do that. And I'll look at the brows, I'll look at the eyes, I'll look at the skin, I'll look at everything. And then just, kind of look at everything. And if you feel like it's too much, you can always just soften it up. If you feel like it's not enough, then you can just add a little more on. Now at this point, I'm gonna take these off because I'm gonna go in and do my foundation. Okay, and my under eye is nice and hydrated. It feels good, it feels more awake. Okay, and now I can go back in, I can conceal that under eye. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go right to those dark areas. And now the main focus of my face are my eyes, which I think that everybody should enhance their eyes if they're having an event that they wanna go to. So but by enhancing our eyes, it just elevates the look just a little bit more, right? Not the everyday look. It just gives it a very subtle, lifted look. Okay, next is time for foundation. So I'll go in, and what I'll do differently than every day is I'll go in with a long wearing foundation. And I'm gonna use this one here from Dior. And I'm not gonna go in there, I'm not gonna use any more, but because I'm just gonna use one that's longer wearing. And I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna touch up these areas here. Pull that out, go in here, side of my nose, pull that out. I'm not putting any more on, I'm just pulling it up and out. Work from the center of my face outwards. Go around that nose area. I have a lot of fine lines in here, so I'm trying to avoid that, but I'll lightly go in there just to blend it in because I don't want anything collecting down there throughout the day. Next, we're ready to go in and we're ready to do a little bit more with some contouring, but very subtly. So I've talked about this many times. This is the Rare Beauty. This is in the shade Gentle. And it's a very subtle contour, but we really just want to give it a more lifted look. So I'm taking a little bit on the top of my hand. I'm going to take a brush, okay, a dense brush. I'm going to wrap my brush in there, wrap it around in there. And I'm just going to go right, I'm going to pull my hair back because I don't want it to, and I'm going to define my outer portion of my face so that it looks a little bit more lifted looking. Okay, I'm going to come down here. I have jowls, I'm gonna bring it down here, and I'm gonna do a lot of blending. This part here, I'm gonna blend upward. Okay, can you see how that just defined my, my cheekbones a little bit? And come over here, tap that in there. Go to the top of my hand again and go upward. Very gently upwards. I don't want any hard lines, I want it really blended. Then next I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the same thing with blush, and I'm just going to work that on my cheekbones. Again, I'm going to go work from the top of my hand. I don't want it getting too heavy. I'm going to take this blush brush, I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to write that on there. Then I'm going to start up high, and I'm going to lift that up towards the top of my ear and upwards. Okay, because you can see, I don't want to go down here because that's going to drag my face down if I go down there. And that way it's keeping the focus up here, okay? I don't want to go down, I don't want the focus down here. That's going to make my face look too heavy. Now, because on a long day, blush will fade. It'll fade probably in like an hour. So you can go in there with a little bit more. And especially if you're going to be using a liquid blush. So what I would do is go in and I would take a little bit of the powder blush and go over the top of that just to set that in place. I would use the same shade that I used in the liquid. Take a brush and just go in there and gently tap that on there. Just so it sets that in place. Because it will fade and you don't want to look washed out in photos. Now you might think, oh my God, that looks like so much. And if it does, just take your foundation brush and go around and soften up the edges a little bit. But I can tell you, in an hour, this will look like I don't have anything on. So it's all about like just standing back, looking, refining, looking, refining. It's not about adding anymore. It's about really just blending it more, refining it a little bit more. So the concealer, so if you stand back and you look, and if you look at me, you can see I have some concealer starting to collect underneath my eyes there. So I don't want to go in there and start wiping it away, but right where I have it like starting to collect in that area right there, I'll take a Q-tip, like so, and go right in that area and pull it out, right where that fine line is, and just kind of wipe it away there. Okay. For as long as I can remember, every mature woman, every woman in general has always complained about their under eye and concealer settling in underneath there. It's one of the biggest complaints. So these are just some of the things I do just to blend it. And like I shared, a lot of what makeup artists do is just a lot of blending, and they have the right brushes that they're using. So brushes, if you don't think brushes are important, think again, because they're really, really important. All right, now to finish it off, I'll take a setting spray for sure on that day. And I'm gonna use this one depending on the weather. Like in the winter time, I wouldn't use this, but when the summer months come and I'm gonna be outside and it's really hot and muggy, where you live, you're gonna want something that's really gonna last the entire day. And this one here is On Till Dawn. It's a mattifying waterproof setting spray. And when I tell you this stuff is great, it's really amazing. I am not ever without this on weddings. So I'll go in and I'll spray my face. I'll look and I'll think, do I need to add mascara? You might need to add mascara if your lashes are very light. You want your lashes to blend in. At that point, you're certainly welcome to go in there and add a little bit of mascara to blend those lashes in so they match your lash. And I'll line my lips. I'll definitely line somebody's lips if it's a long day ahead of them, because there's more pigment in the lip pencil than there are in actually the lip products. So I'll take it, I'll keep it on its side like so. And then if I see any hard lines, I'll just take my ring finger and I'll blend that in. So if you have very dry lips, go in there with a lip balm right when you're doing your primer or your skincare, and let that sit on there for the duration. You'll have a much easier time getting your lip pencil to glide across your lips and the lip products to actually sink into your lips. And then I'll just go over that with a lip stain, and I'll go in. Then I'll stand back and I'll take a look. How does everything look? Do I need to adjust anything else? Take my makeup down on my neck a little bit, depending on what type of outfit I'm wearing. I'll even like open, a lot of times women will be there with their robes on. I'll say, open up your robe so I can see how everything looks, how your face looks up against your body. Now, if you're going in the summertime and you have a lot of like different discolorations on your chest, that's something you really should look into adjusting, especially if you're gonna be wearing like something strapless or low cut, or even on your arms. I have the product for you and it works great. It's this here from Westmore Beauty. I cannot say enough good things about this. This is like, it's a body perfector, and what it's gonna do is it's not gonna take everything away, it's just gonna soften everything up so that it looks healthy and glowy and just looks very blended looking. I'll leave the video link down below as well as the product, and that way you can check it out. But you don't want your face and everything to look completely polished and then have your skin up here not blend in with that. So these are just some of the easy things that you can do, and that's what I recommend to my clients if they're like interested in, you know, if they're worried about how like they have age spots on their chest or on their arms. It's great to use for that. It really is. So here are some of the things that we did differently to elevate it. We used the shimmer across the lid, okay? I did my brows exactly the same, but I cut them out with a concealer so that they look more pronounced and lifted. I went in there and I smudged out my liner across my lash line. Then I went in and I put some lashes on, and I put them on underneath, okay? I let that lash glue dry for like a minute if you don't have a fan, and about 30 seconds if you do have a fan. Then I went in and I contoured very subtly around my forehead and my cheekbones just to give it a lifted look. I went in, I put my blush on, and then over the top of that, I went in there with a powder blush of the same shade, just to kind of set that in place, because like I shared, blush will fade throughout the day. Then I went in and I lined my lips, and I went in there with a lip stain, and then I finished everything off by using this setting spray, because I want everything to stay throughout the day. Then throughout today, the only thing that you really should have to touch up would be your lips. With eating and drinking, it's inevitable that your lips will not last. So this is the finished look. So which one of these elevated tips are you gonna try first? Is it gonna be the lashes? Is it gonna be cutting out your brows? Is it gonna be adding just a little bit of shimmer across your lid? Just let me know down below.